Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome back, friends, or welcome for the first time, new friends. Today is the 8th Community Voices playwriting session. Hooray! We made it this far. This is presented by the Old Globe's Arts Engagement Department in beautiful San Diego, California. My name is Katie Haroff, and I am the program creator and your virtual pal, here to support you on your new playwriting journey. Wherever you are on it, whether you've been following along for the past several weeks or you just happen to tune in today for the first time, stick around. We're going to share about 3 very different plays in development with all of you, and then talk about their structure and successes, as well as some ideas to support the possibility of taking each new piece to a new level of access. So even if it's not your play that we're specifically sharing today, you're going to enjoy the reading of it by our talented actors today. And you're going to gain a lot of insight on how to approach your writing or any writing with some critical thought to help evolve your personally designed aesthetic. Sounds cool, right? Today we have a lot to cover, so I'm going to zip through these opening acts of our workshops a little quicker than usual today. And we're going to get right into the intros, and I'm going to check in with our fabulous assistant teaching artist, Gil Sotu and Mickey Vale. And this check-in for today is going to be a brief one. And I'm going to start with Gil today. So Gil, could you give me a 1-word high and a 1-word low in reflection of your past couple of weeks, couple of days? And this is great for anybody watching at home. Give me 1-word high and 1-word low for your check-in today. Any word at all, and we would love to hear what's going on with you in the comments below. But Gil, let's hear from you. 1-word high, 1-word low.
So 1-word high would be creativity. 1-word low would be exhaustion.
All right. And there's so much just from that check-in that I want to dig in on, but I want to make sure that we have some time today to explore the scripts that we're reading. So thank you for sharing, Gil. We're going to move forward to Mickey. Hey, Mickey, I would love to hear a 1-word high and 1-word low from you as well.
1-word high is Grant, and 1-word low is termites.
Oh man! Thank you for sharing, Mickey. Isn't it funny how just one word in both of these categories can really give you a whole story in and of itself? So congratulations on the good, and I hope you are navigating through not so good easily. So sorry to hear about that. And again, let's hear your 1-word high and low in the comments, and we'll check in with those a little later today. And since today is a very heavy on the acting side of things kind of day, I have not 1, not 2, but 3 return performers here with me to help carry the load and share their gifts with all of you in reading the scripts that we are going to share today. I have Ariel Seiler, Laura Zablit, and Jerry Flores here. We're going to bring Ariel up first. And Ariel, thank you for being here, my dear. I would love to hear your 1-word high and 1-word low check-in.
Well, thank you for having me. My 1-word high is gardening, and my 1-word low is litter box. Oh, that's 2 words, but
we'll accept it. She's a rule breaker. And once again, painting us a picture. Gardening sounds great. Whatever's bad with a litter box sounds not so great. Thank you for sharing. We're going to jump to the wonderful Laura Zablit, who you see on our page every Wednesday, hosting the fabulous Behind the Curtain workshop at 3 o'clock. Thank you for being here on your non-broadcast day, Laura. It's so good to see your face. I'd love to hear your high and your low check-in for today.
Sure. So my high is purple, and my low is roller coaster, but hyphenated to make it 1 word instead of 2.
People don't want just one word. They want more words. I get it. And I love your purple hair, Laura. Thank you for sharing with us today. And we're going to jump to our last but never least actor, Mr. Jerry Flores. Hello, Jerry. Welcome back. Thank you for sharing your talents with us today. I would love to hear your high and low check-in for the day.
Thank you for having me here again. My high would be warm, and my low would be panicky.
I don't think we got to see your face yet. I want to see it.
Oh. Can you see me now?
Well, hopefully we'll get to see you later when you're reading a little later. So usually, there he is. Yay, Jerry.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
What was your check-in words again, Jerry?
Oh yeah, so my check-in, my high was warm, and then my low was panicky.
So now you have a face to the check-in words, which is very, very important. Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us, Jerry. And thank you for those of you that are answering at home. We love knowing what's going on with you as well, even in an abbreviated format. And I'm not taking out the chair warm-up for today. We're still going to do it, but it is also going to be nice and quick, and we're going to get right into it. So go ahead and take a moment to find some good posture. My actors and teaching artists are going to pop up to join me in this little warm-up, so I'm not alone, thank goodness. There they are. So we're going to find a nice tall posture, and we're going to start with that beautiful deep resetting breath. So long inhale in, hold at the top, and a long exhale out. Let's do that again. Long inhale in, hold at the top, and long exhale out. And then just one more so we're all together. Long inhale in, hold at the top, and a long exhale out. Good. And come into that nice posture. And we're going to do a little fan favorite and do some neck isolation love and give our neck a little stretch today. Really nice and easy. Know your limits. If anything hurts, please don't do it. So we're going to start with a no, a nice long no. We're going to go all the way to the right as far as we can. And remember to breathe. And just go ahead and bring that back all the way to the left. And just that is a nice stretch you can feel. And we're going to balance it out with a positive, with a yes. So go ahead and bring your chin up, looking back, and then go ahead and bring it down and tuck it in for a nice little lengthening in the back of your neck. Good, and come on up. We're going to do 3 neck circles to the right and then 3 to the left. So use your nose to draw that circle. 1, 2, and 3. And the other way. 1, 2, 3. Good. And now we're just going to do one more. We're going to drop our right ear to our right shoulder. This one should feel nice. If you like a little rub in your neck there, go for it. Give yourself a little love. Remember to breathe. Go ahead and find center again, and then take your left ear to your left shoulder. Love that side of your neck too. Why not? And then let's go ahead and come back to center. That's it. I always do these to remind you to take care of yourself, to reset for the day, and remember to breathe and continue to breathe throughout our time or whenever you're feeling stuck. I promise you it helps. Now we're going to jump into our readings for today. I'm going to give you a little intro before we do, so you know what to expect. But we're going to give the most of our workshop today into reading these pieces and to process and share some feedback live. After today's session, everyone that has submitted their pieces for feedback, and there's been quite a few of you, will receive a filled out feedback sheet like the handout in our comments. So we have a handout for today, but this isn't technically homework. This is for you to kind of follow along and see what this feedback will sort of look like and feel like today. And it's going to help you to know what to expect when we provide you our thoughts for your work. So something to keep in mind is that we are intentionally curving our conversation to the positive and then layering in structural suggestions to help you tell your story. This feedback isn't about our egos or us trying to get you to say what we want you to say, and that's never going to be how we approach feedback. In more advanced writing workshops, the feedback you get may be a little more aggressive and might even feel intense or even a little negative, but that's just not how I function in these workshops. I personally am a nurturer, and I have found that if you can support a new playwright from the place of positivity and love of art, that new writers can feel a little more secure in taking risks and exploring outside of their comfort zones. So that's how I do feedback, y'all. I tell you it's subjective, I tell you to take it or leave it, and I give you a whole lot of love. And I hope this approach is accessible to you, and if not, it's at least a style you can learn from and respect. So I'm going to bring Gil back up because he's just going to read through the questions of our feedback for today. So Gil, if you could come up and do that for us, that would be fabulous.
Sure, I would love to. All right, so the first question is, what do you believe is the overall message of this play? Okay. The next thing is, who do you think should be in the audience of this piece? It's important to know who you're trying to write for. Next thing is, if you saw a sequel of this play, what would you hope it included? And the last thing is just to give any additional feedbacks on the play.
And that's it. Thank you so much for reading that, Gil. We're going to come back to these questions as we read through the pieces that we shared today. And some of you at home might be feeling like, well, none of those questions are negative. Like, how do you get any kind of feedback from that at all? Well, it's sneaky, dear friends. The second question, the question about a sequel, or it can also sort of be structured in a different way of what are you still curious about in this play? And even though that question comes from the positive side, what would we like to know more about in the world that you've created in your play? It is still intended to give you, the writer at home, an idea of what people are still wondering about or still left scratching their head about, what they would like potentially more of. And then it's up to you as a writer if you want to jump into that and dig into that side of your script a little bit more. Also, the question about the message of your play is intended to be an opportunity to see if you're hitting your mark. Now, obviously, if we understand your message very clearly, if your piece, states it pretty clearly, we'll be able to guess that right on. Whereas in some other cases, in some other pieces, it might be a little more ambiguous to us. And we might, in that moment, have to make a guess that doesn't hit your mark. And so it's up to you as a playwright at home to decide, do you care? If our interpretation of your piece is still kind of cool, maybe it's exciting that there's multi elements of your piece that can be interpreted in many different ways. Whereas if we get a message from you that you really don't want to have out there, that's a good opportunity for you to kind of take stock with what you wrote and try to figure out where that message is coming from and see if you can curb it in a different direction. So yes, this feedback sheet is gentle and done with love. However, it does hit some very important elements for you as a new playwright to contemplate, and it should help to make sure that your piece is in a place where you're excited about. All right. So now let's get into the good stuff. Can I have all of the actors come up for this first reading? And Gil, who is going to be reading a role for today. And I'm going to let all of these fine performers and my teaching artist handle the reading of this. Mickey is going to be supplying the stage directions of this. Once again, we have a fabulous collection of actors today, but they're going to be playing roles that maybe they wouldn't be normally playing in real life. Some are playing little boys, some are playing the personification of fear. So that's maybe a little bit outside of their specific type. But as Mickey reads through the character descriptions, The actors will let you know with a little gesture who they are playing. So I'm going to hand it over. Mickey, take it away.
Dub the fear. Characters. Fear, the jumpy personification of the emotion fear, as a medieval-style knight sworn to protect a 12-year-old boy, Dylan. They find something to be scared of at every turn. Dylan, a 12-year-old boy with an extensive vocabulary and exceptional intelligence. Dylan has a sense of humor that errs on the dark and ironic side. Dylan's mother, Dylan's protective middle-aged mother, who takes pains for Dylan's health and safety, but feels that Dylan takes it for granted and disapproves of Fear's incessant imaginary dragons. Dylan's father, an intelligent, middle-aged man who thinks that Fear's actions and Dylan's acceptance of them is ridiculous. He rarely outbursts in anger, but when he does it for Dylan's sake. Setting, Dylan's family living room, 6 a.m., early spring 2020, Thursday, amidst school closures. At Rise, on a darkened stage, Fear, wearing full armor and visor down, stands guard by the side of Dylan's bed, his sword pointed directly outward from him and level. He frequently jerks left or right, as if responding to a sudden noise. Bells strike irregularly, culminating in deafening clangs. All the chimes heard total to 33.
Is it safe?
Raising their sword and preparing to whack it forward.
Death to thee, foul harbinger of... I shall clear a path for thee.
Looking downward at the ground as if examining it and searching for something, Fear whacks their sword on the ground in various places. They move as evading spiders or insects on the floor.
Are there any bugs?
Mayhaps. I cannot ensure I did not miss a few. Oh no. I could have been the death of thee.
Fear begins to drop to their knees in agony, but stops just before hitting the floor, as if remembering they are terrified of it. Fear cautiously examines the floor. Dylan breathes in deeply and looks at the ground, tentatively putting his foot down, moving as if evading several insects on the floor. Eventually, he makes his way over to Fear and steadies himself against Fear.
This is very difficult.
It is worth it for the protection of thy encephalon.
Fear whirls around and strikes the wall with the flat of their sword. They tentatively lift their sword and examine its blade. Their brows furrow, they motion for Dylan to stay where they are, and they creep across the stage, jerking around at the tiniest sound. They swing again, examine their sword, and their brows furrow again.
There be a bug in this place. It may harm thee. Tread with utmost caution.
Fear and Dylan look nervously around the stage as Dylan follows Fear. Dylan tiptoes across the stage, then runs off screaming.
Help! Help! It's a bug! It's a neurotoxic bug!
Fear hefts their sword and comes barreling after Dylan. A sound of shattering glass is heard off stage.
Death to thee, wretched midge!
Fear pulls Dylan back on stage.
Did I harm thee? Did I give my charge a brain concussion? Dylan!
No, Fear, you didn't touch...
Thou shouldn't remember if I did!
Fear grabs Dylan's face and examines his pupils. Dylan jumps.
Thine pupils are dilated. Thine pupils are dilated. Call upon a doctor.
Fear runs off stage into Dylan's parents' bedroom.
Fear, I...
Dylan sighs and begins to follow suit until Fear runs back on stage with his sword drawn and pointed forward, nearly plunging through Dylan. Dylan throws his hands up and lurches backward.
I'm a messenger.
Dylan's mother and father walk in.
Apologies. My sincerest apologies, my lord.
Dylan, this is very tiring.
I'm a messenger. You're blaming me. Look.
Yes, thou shouldst blame me, for I am the protector of Dylan and ensurer of his long and safe life. Thanks are due to me.
Dylan, life is important, but not so important that it should prevent you from living.
Do you know what really isn't helpful for living? Dying.
Dylan, you can't do this. Life isn't worth it for this. We want to make sure that you're safe. It's all we worry about. You are safe here.
And death or damage to his brain can sneak up on one unsuspecting. I am not a tyrant. I am a servant and protector. I take pains to keep thy son safe.
Dylan, you...
If thou loved Dylan, thou wouldst let me protect him.
Dylan's mother looks intensely uncomfortable. Dylan's father is trying to keep cool, but is slowly getting angry.
We love Dylan and we want him to have a life.
Honey, you're making your life worse for you and us. You're making yourself unhappy.
You're trying to protect my soul, but my soul will not function without a brain. I would have my appendages chopped off and murder several people to keep my brain functioning perfectly. Being happy is not worth any brain damage.
Dylan, these are imaginary dragons. Fear makes these things up. Nicotine, concussions, neurotoxic bugs. There are no neurotoxic bugs in the area.
Could be an invasive species.
Yes, fear's right.
Fear is not protecting you. He is harming you. High cortisol levels are not good for your brain.
Fear is the only reason that humanity has endured.
Dylan, living in constant fear isn't a life worth living.
It's the only life I can live.
No, it is not. People who aren't this crazy can live very long lives. Being afraid constantly can actually shorten your life.
My brain being perfect is more important than...
Listen to me. I'm sorry. I needed you to listen.
Dylan makes sure that he is out of arm's length from his father and starts crying.
Doing this is hurting you and your relationship with us. Fear isn't protecting you. Fear is hurting you.
Dylan's father reaches an arm out to his son. Dylan moves back. Dylan's mother moves over and shelters Dylan.
Are you afraid of me?
I'm worried you were going to hit me.
I'm not going to hit you.
He tries to put his arm on Dylan's shoulder again. Dylan starts to move away, but then allows himself to be touched. After patting Dylan sympathetically, Dylan's father turns toward Fear.
Fear?
Fear, who's been watching the whole time, instinctively raises their sword.
Your son must be protected. You neglect his safety. Any remotely possible danger should be protected.
Fear swivels around and bangs the pommel of their sword against the wall, pulls it off, and examines it. They don't find what they're looking for. They look around the room in a circle as they continue, simultaneously speaking and searching for a bug.
Any danger that could harm.
They once again swing around and bang their sword against the wall and subsequently inspect it. They find nothing.
Any danger that could harm Dylan cannot afford to go ignored.
Hey, a couplet.
You might expose him to neurotoxin. You might expose him unduly to nicotine. And for the record, you smoke.
He only vapes outside.
I fail to see how that excuses him. A world of metaphorical dragons lurks in the world, and you turned a blind eye to all of them. Any one of them could incinerate Dylan.
The chances of all those dragons hurting Dylan are infinitesimal. Making your life worse to protect against them isn't worth it.
But he could be hurt.
But he has a life. Fear.
Fear starts to tremble. They are having an existential crisis.
Dylan, fear in moderation keeps you safe, but fear in excess is deadly.
What? I could have shortened Dylan's lifespan by decades. I could have given him cancer. Wait.
Do you see?
No, just wait.
Fear flops their visor up and leans against the wall.
Wait. You have...
Fear takes a deep breath, opens their mouth, and begins to speak.
Thou hast a point.
Fear.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thou art welcome.
Exhaling, Fear looks around the room casually. Suddenly, they spy something.
An insect. It may harbor toxins of the lobe.
Fear hefts his sword. Dylan shrieks and runs while simultaneously being careful not to move too fast or look threatening to the fly that Fear has found.
Oh, God.
End of play.
Okay. All right. Thank you, actors. Thank you to our brave person at home that submitted that work for us to discuss. Thank you so much. You know, it's a lot of fun to read through these things. It's very important to keep in mind when you're writing those stage directions that we're probably going to read the majority of them. So if there's something that you can leave out for the sake of supporting the action, maybe consider it, or maybe save them to certain parts of the script. But anyway, let's jump in and chat about that piece. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to bring Gil and Mickey back to have this discussion with me. And we're going to kind of focus on what the feedback sheet says and talk about that specifically. But just so you know at home, we're going to go over our thoughts kind of quickly, a little quickly here, but we'll also be sending you more in-depth thoughts about your piece directly to you by next Tuesday. And that goes for all of the readings today. We'll have a little chat about them, but we'll also send you some more in-depth notes. So we're going to start with Mickey for the first question. Mickey, what drew you into this piece? What were you interested in regarding it?
I love fear. I love the personification of fear and how they're this bumbling hero that's, you know, fighting flies with their sword. And they're very endearing. Fear is endearing.
I love that you started that by saying, I love fear, which is an interesting thing to say, but that is, you know, a credit to you at home for finding a character of fear that, even though is clearly causing a lot of trouble for Dylan, is still funny, is, you know, sees itself in one way as strong, but you really went there with the manifestation of its characteristics of also just kind of being a bloated, elevated, bumbling thing that is very catastrophic in this person's world. That was definitely fun. And it's fun to create a character that isn't a real human. As you could tell, Ariel had a lot of fun kind of jumping into this role and going for it with. So kudos to you at home for playing with something like that. Gil, I'm going to jump to you for the next question, which on the sheet is like, what would be a sequel of this piece? But another way to ask that question is, what are you still curious about from this world? What would you maybe like to know more about? Or if there were a part 2, what would you like that part 2 to focus on?
Oh, I would love to hear about and see actually the parents' fear. So as a character, so you can actually even take out one of the parents and have like the mother and her fear versus the son and his fear, you know, and just to really explore what a more mature fear looks like versus a more naive or younger fear looks like.
That's a really cool idea. I mean, and it speaks to what Gil was specifically interested in this world. When you create new rules in your play, like this is a world where fear is a physical person, and it is specifically Dylan's fear. So in this world, does that mean that the parents also have a fear that lives with them and kind of, you know, alters their world? Or maybe they have another emotional characteristic that is embodied, like anger or distraction, like, you know, that you created this rule in this world and we're very interested in it. We'd like to know what else can happen in this kind of world where fear is manifested as a person. And that's super cool that you want to play in that kind of environment. I'm also interested, and this is our second time we have a little rehearsal before this, reading through this, and this time around I found myself very interested in wanting to know what got Dylan to this place with his fear. Like, how long has this relationship been around? You kind of play with an idea that there's an issue with the father, that he frightens Dylan, and that moment kind of made me feel like this time hearing it that I might want to know more about that. I also want to say that Gil made a really good point in his feedback that sometimes you don't need two characters. Like, for instance, the parents. You have two characters that are very specifically doing the same thing, trying to get Dylan out of his fear. And in a short play, it sometimes feels like you have to divvy up the brain of one person to make it possible to have enough lines for both of those characters to be justified. My advice to you is just make it one instead. You don't necessarily need both of the parents to be there unless you have a very specific reason, like you want to show why Dylan has some manifested fear around his father and not his mother, which in this version of this piece you don't have just yet, and maybe you would like to, or maybe it's not really relevant. I'm going to ask one more question to my assistants, and then we'll move on to our next piece. And that's this for Mickey. Mickey, what do you think is the message behind this play?
I feel like it's saying that fear can feel like it protects you. You can feel protected by fear, but you can't be controlled by it.
Word. I couldn't say it better myself. Thank you both for sharing that. And if that's around where you thought your message is meant to be, then you're right on. But if it's not quite what you want to say, you might want to consider whether or not it's okay if that message is going out into the world. And honestly, that's a great message to explore. So it could just be that you might want to fine tune it more specifically if it's something different that you'd like to explore. All right, we're going to move forward to our next play. This piece is a lot of fun. I'm going to read the stage directions for this piece and give Mickey a little break. This piece has a lot of characters, but for this reading, we're only going to see two of them on the screen. And so we only need, today we only need Ariel and Jerry to read through this piece, though in the future it seems like there are going to be some other characters. And also for the sake of time, the character descriptions that were shared are very elaborate. So I'm going to only share the first couple of sentences of each character description, but just know at home that this writer went above and beyond the call of character descriptions and shared some really specific loveliness in each of these characters. So this piece is called Siblings, and the characters are we have Beatrice. This is going to be an unseen character in this reading. This is a medium-sized dog with a sweet appearance. She has floppy ears and a spotted coat. She's a very affectionate and loving and playful, intelligent dog. She's best friends with Victoria, who calls her Bee. And then we have Victoria, who Ariel will be playing. She is self-identified as female, young professional adult, busy, independent, outspoken, and zealous, cares deeply, a fighter, but puts on a brave face. She's secretly, desperately lonely and depressed. And then we have Jerry, our other character with lines, the expert. He is enthusiastic and an animated man in his 50s or 60s. Bill Nye meets David Attenborough. What an awesome character description. Will play several experts throughout the play. In this reading, we've only gotten to one so far. There are two other characters we will not see today. They are Entropy and Predictability. If you've been with us, you might have seen these characters in an earlier reading. Just so you know, very briefly, Entropy is an adult, though it's hard to tell their age. They wear filthy shoes, and they have this eclectic assortment of elements all over their costume, and they kind of like drip things off of them. And then we have Predictability, who is kind of the opposite of that. They wear clean, crisp things. They are a young adult, and it's clear, and they keep their nails short, they're utilitarian, but we are not going to see these characters in this reading. So the setting of this piece is Victoria's apartment. It takes up half the stage. The other half of the stage is empty and represents the world beyond the apartment. The door to the apartment is center stage so that the audience can see the actors before they have entered the apartment. Victoria's apartment is clean, functional. Think IKEA furniture, though it's clear she doesn't spend a lot of time at home. At Rise, we see Victoria's dimly lit apartment. The front door leads to the living room with a couch facing the audience. It is fall, nighttime. The audience hears sounds of the city and sees the yellow glow of streetlights filtering through the windows of the apartment. Beatrice is slowly illuminated from above. Several long beats go by before we hear Victoria's approaching footsteps and the jangling of keys. Victoria is juggling takeout containers and bags while she fumbles with the keys to open the apartment door.
Hey, B, I'm home, baby girl. Hold on, darling.
Victoria, tipsy, continues to struggle to open the door, finally manages to unlock it, pushes it open with her hip. She turns on the light, flings the takeout food on the couch, throws off her heels, and crouches down to greet Beatrice.
I'm sorry it's so late, sweetheart. I actually got invited to speak at the donor dinner this year, and I drink more when I'm nervous. So before you know it, it was way past my curfew. Way past my curfew. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, sweet pea. Don't worry. I didn't come home without an apology.
Victoria picks up the takeout and starts to make her way to the kitchen to put away her food.
We've raised a lot of money for those kiddos this year.
Victoria tipsily wanders off stage to her bedroom and closes the door behind her. The lights slowly rise on Beatrice a bit more. Now there is a flashback. Victoria sits on the couch. The at-rise to this flashback is that Victoria sits on the couch, staring numbly ahead. It is late. She glows with the flickering lights of the TV in front of her. Her phone buzzes. In a moment of excitement, she reaches for the phone next to her on the couch, then realizing it's a work email, she disappointedly tosses it back on the couch. She continues to stare ahead, though visibly a little more defeated than before. Lights come up on an empty part of the stage. The expert in a white lab coat appears. During this scene, Victoria is seen tidying and cleaning her apartment. The expert clicks through projected images behind him during the presentation, very much like a TED Talk.
Domestication. The process of adapting wild plants and animals for human use. Legend has it the first cavemen domesticated wolves so they could no longer have to fear them, carefully gained their trust so they could hunt together. However, wolves most likely domesticated themselves. According to fossil records, the process of domestication began around 15,000 years ago, the same time when the first permanent human settlements began to form. With permanence came garbage, scraps. For wolves, this meant a consistent source of food. The wolves that could tolerate the presence of people had more access to food, leading to more reproductive success and a gradual separation from their wilder counterparts. Tameness, as we call it, was the trait they developed first. A shift in temperament that led to a whole cascade of other physical changes. Now, I started selectively breeding foxes in Russia in the 1950s. My goal was to investigate the origins of domestication by trying to replicate the results in wild foxes. Each generation, I chose the pups that showed the least fear, the most tolerance to being approached. Generation after generation, some surprising findings surfaced.
Enter Beatrice, dressed as a wolf, being led on a leash by an assistant.
Here's my trusty assistants, will help me to demonstrate how the process of becoming a tamer led to the appearance of the domestic dog we know today. As the foxes became friendlier and more tolerant of humans, the first thing to change was their ears.
The expert pulls the fake set of wolf ears off of Beatrice, revealing her floppy ears.
The cartilage in the ears became weaker, and the pointed ears that we're accustomed to seeing on wolves became floppy. Next, their beautiful cervical coats suddenly became spotted.
The expert pulls off the wolf coat off of Beatrice's back to reveal her spotty coat.
By the end of the experiment, the foxes whined for attention and wagged their curly tails. 50 years of selective breeding in favor of tameness led to these astounding changes. Essentially, the domestic dog, Canis familiaris, is a weaker version of the wolf.
Victoria pauses in her cleaning and looks at the audience. There is another flashback. The lights rise on Victoria, who is on the phone with her mom as she fumbles around in the kitchen, trying to cook up a pasta dinner while she holds the phone to her ear.
No, I'm doing well. Busy, but good. Yeah, well, You know, it's my first few months on the job, so yeah, my schedule has been a bit intense. No, I still have time to go out. A bunch of us get drinks and go to trivia on Thursdays. How are you guys doing since Lucky passed? Does the house feel empty? Oh, I'm glad. He was such a good dog. Oh, really? No, as much as I'd love to have a dog, I just don't have the time right now. Thanks, Mom. No, I'm doing good. You guys take care now. Okay, bye.
Realizing she has burnt the pasta, she tosses it in the sink, frustrated and sad. With her hands on either side of the sink, she leans down, leans into the rising stream, tears in her eyes. And that is where we are with this piece at this moment. All right, let's bring Gil and Mickey back up. We're going to chat about this piece, just like we did the last one. Hello, you two. Thank you again for sharing at home. We're going to once again send you some more in-depth thoughts on your work by next Tuesday, but we'll also chat a little bit right now. So we'll start with Gil this time. Hey, Gil, what drew you into this piece? What were you interested in?
I love that she used the flashback to show part of the story instead of just telling it. And I also like that she allowed herself to get weird with it, you know? Yeah, having one of the characters being a wolf costume and everything like that. She's almost kind of thinking like a producer a little bit.
I liked that too. I agree. I really imagine an actual dog playing this part, which isn't the norm for me. Whenever there's a character that's an animal, I'm like, this is a person playing this part. But for whatever reason in this show, I just imagine the nicest, sweetest dog actor that we could find playing Beatrice. And I loved the imagery of her playing this other role in this flashback moment. That was a lot of fun. I agree. Mickey, what are you still curious about? Or if this piece isn't finished, but what would you like to find out about within it before it gets to its end?
What's going on? The dog is obviously a major player in the story, and I'm curious why. What's the significance, and what the TED Talk thing about the wolf and being domesticated into a dog? What's the significance of that? And who was she missing? Who was she waiting to hear from when her phone went off? And I got lots of questions.
I mean, and that makes sense. It definitely feels like a piece that's in its earlier stages. I do want to say to you at home, if you have a lot to cover still in this piece, you should know you're at about the 7-minute mark with the piece as it is. And so this might be a story that it needs to be told in a longer format, like in a full-length play. And that's okay. I mean, this could also just be your beginning of it. It could be you starting to develop it. However, if you know where you're going, if you have a way that you're going to kind of wrap up this story and where you're going with it, and it kind of feels like you're telling us, about the origin of this relationship between Victoria and Beatrice, which is lovely. And I personally would like to hear how that happened. But you don't have a ton of time left. As wonderfully as everything is being set up, you're dealing with mostly monologues. And if you remember in our monologue workshop, those can take a lot of time. So if you want to keep this play within the 10-minute genre, see if you can wrap it up within the next 3 minutes or so, which means that you might just need one more flashback to tie this story together for us. I have one more question about this piece, and then we're going to move on to our last piece that we're going to read. This is for Gil. Gil, what do you think? This is still an early stage, but if you had to guess, what do you think might be the message behind this piece?
Maybe the message, because they're talking about the evolution of the wolf to the dog, is maybe it could be a metaphor for our evolution from being dependent on people to maybe our freedom or even our domestication, as we get older.
That's deep.
I am a poet,
And I obviously love Gil's perspective and his thought with that, but that might not be entirely where you're going with it. If it is, you gotta do it in 3 minutes, lady, friend at home. But if if that's not quite where you're going, that's okay too. Just know that we're inspired by your work. We're excited about where you're going with this. You've left a lot of things ambiguous at this moment in terms of where you're driving your story, but we love the themes, we love dogs, and we're very excited to see where you're going with this. So please move forward, and we'll once again share a little bit more info with you in your inbox coming before Tuesday. So I'm going to jump into our last play that we're going to read. So if I could bring all of the actors up, everyone has a part in this piece, and I'm going to be reading the stage directions now. So let's do it, everybody. This play is untitled at the moment. The characters are Ephraim, and again, characters are played outside of their type for this, or actors are played outside of their type. Ephraim is a male. He's 16. He's Guatemalan. He's tall, athletic, hopeful, and conflicted. We have a pastor. He is tough, indifferent to the past or future, can only control the now and what's right in front of him. We have Brenda. She is a female, 40s, Honduran. She's a roly-poly, sarcastic, nosy, and maternal. And then we have Douglas, male, 30s to 40s. He is from El Salvador. He is serious, angry, and motivated. And then we have Emmanuel, or Manny. He's a male, 20s to 30s. He's Haitian. He's lanky, irreverent, and funny. And then we have El Gallo, who is a male. We don't know his age. He's a mystery. We never see him except for a hook hand. He's played by the actor who plays Pastor. The setting is, it takes place in a migrant shelter in Tijuana, Mexico, interior. There is a row of tents, perhaps folding tables and chairs leaned against a wall. This space is a sanctuary of a church, but also their event hall and also a migrant shelter. 2 large maroon double doors lead outside. There is a screen door that leads to the pastor's house where El Gallo sleeps. The action takes place over 1 day. Scene 1. At rise, in darkness, we hear the stock note notification from a WhatsApp text, followed by typing sounds, then weeping. A cell phone light illuminates a tent. This is Brenda's house. We start hearing the familiar whiz bang of the climax from a Spanish-dubbed Avengers Endgame film, concurrent with another tent being similarly illuminated. This is Manny's house. Soon, a Spanish language announcer of an exciting play from an American baseball game is heard, and another tent becomes illuminated by a cell phone light. This is Ephraim's house. Lights slowly up to reveal 4 brightly colored tents in a very clean but very worn room that is part of a church sanctuary meeting space and refugee shelter. In between Brenda's house and Ephraim's house is an empty tent. This is Douglas's house. The cacophony of sounds should be somewhat funny, peculiar, and sad. This goes on for about 20 seconds or so before the sound of a triangle dinner bell chimes in off stage. The phones are all quickly shut off, and the scuttling of putting things away comes from each tent. Manny darts out of his house and exits the double doors just as the pastor enters with a megaphone in one hand and a clipboard in the other arm.
Bendiciones ustedes. Recuerden, niños eat first. Kids line up by height only. I don't care if you're 15 or 50. If you're too tall for this ride, back of the line. Doctores Sin Fronteras will be here tomorrow. If you have any infection, sores, pink eye.
The pastor props open the double doors. Lights spill in. It is midday. While the pastor speaks, Ephraim comes out of his house. He has a baseball mitt and a lacrosse ball instead of a baseball. About the same time, Brandy exits her tent, which is a laborious affair. She quickly wipes her eyes.
Buenos tardes, flaco.
Man, quit calling me flaco. I ain't that skinny.
Mijo, you could fit through my teeth. Wear a disguise and get a second plate today.
No second plates until everyone is eaten.
Gracias, maestra. Wanna have a catch today, mijo? Douglas back yet?
Nah, his court case was at 9 a.m., so he's probably still coming back. Poor guy had to wake up at 3 a.m. to catch the bus to San Isidro.
No me digas. Well, if he doesn't win his case, hopefully he smuggles back cheeseburgers from In-N-Out. Oh my God. I want American cheeseburgers in America.
I'm getting in line. I'll try and get your plate.
Gracias, flaco. If it's spaghetti, I'm not interested. I spent 6 weeks walking through Mexico to ask for asylum, and instead I get pasta? Dios mío. How did you cut in line? Eres terrible. What's for lunch today?
You don't want to know.
Manny sits on the stoop of the pastor's front door. Ephraim re-enters with 2 plates, hands one to Brenda, and parks on a chair next to his tent. As Brenda speaks, the pastor enters with another plate and goes straight for her door. She shoos Manny away with curses.
Ephraim, dime, what's on that plate?
It's a surprise.
Gallo, hay espagueti para ti, compañero.
He enters the house. Brenda gives Ephraim a look of death and snatches a plate from him. Manny takes the chair and parks it next to Brenda.
Weenies y pasta, mi crente. Spaghetti? Ay, ay, ay.
It's not too bad. I like hot dogs. I like spaghetti. What's the problem?
I like ice cream and tuna, but you don't see me eating tuna and ice cream, do you?
Douglas back yet?
No.
No.
Hey, chicken legs. You want to have a catch today, little man?
No reply, but Ephraim definitely heard.
Hey, have you guys ever seen the Gallo?
Yeah, every time I go to Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Brenda, you ain't going to Kentucky Fried Chicken. You don't have any money.
I have money. I have so much money. I go to KFC whenever I want.
Okay, so if you hate the weenie so much, why don't you just go get us some chicken?
Brenda glares. She eats. Manny and Ephraim pound fists.
Hey, Manny, what number you have?
Ha, man, not like it matters. Might as well be number 3 million. How about you?
1206.
You'll get called me, huh?
I hope so.
Who's your sponsor?
Mi tío, Tomás. He lives in Bakersfield. I get my asilo, start going to school, get my scholarship to play ball at Cal or Harvard. And I'll be playing shortstop for the Padres before you know it.
What, they need shortstops to cook at McDonald's now?
Cállate. Who cares if he wants to play baseball? It's not any more realistic than becoming a dumb rapper.
Forget you, mama. I'm gonna make it. I get my asylum and forget picking strawberries. I'm going straight to New York. I'm gonna be the next 50 Cent. Get rich or die trying.
You won't amount to 50 pesos, loco.
Douglas storms in. He's dressed nice, but none of his clothes are the appropriate fit. He is cursing in Spanish.
How did it go, man?
Did you get to bring back cheeseburgers like I asked?
How'd it go? How'd it go? It took 5 hours to get to the court in San Diego. The judge was a puto. The interpreter kept screwing up my story. And for what? I have to go back in 4 months.
Did they give you a decision?
They didn't give me nothing, so I made my own decision.
¿Y qué es?
Voy a cruzar esta noche.
You're
Oh,
gonna
when?
cross?
You're kidding. You're not crossing the border, Douglas.
Like hell I ain't. The law is upside down, so God provides another path. I talked to Coyote 2 days ago. Just in case I got screwed. He crosses people in Tecate, and I'm going tonight.
Tonight?
that's awesome, dude.
Douglas, please think about this. You could starve in the desert. You could get caught.
We're already caught. Look at this mess. You see these hands? All these hands want to do is work. Solo trabajar. Bastante, 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 bastante. They won't let me walk in, so I'm walking around. If you guys
at his tent.
if you guys aren't crazy, you'll come with me.
Everyone freezes.
How much?
Manny, cálmate.
How much for the coyote, man?
1,000 pesos.
Screw it. I'm going.
Manny, shut up and sit down.
You shut up. This is our chance, man. How long you been here, Brenda? 5 months? 6? And still not called? Want to wait 5 more months? How about 5 more years? I got some money saved. I'm going. What do you think, little gangster? You want to go?
Ephraim stares at the floor. He is clearly considering it. And that's all we have of that piece right now. I realized it is not complete, this piece, but because there's one character we have not met just yet or have seen his hook. But you should know at home that you're at about the 10-minute mark with what that is, which if this piece is a piece that's going to be diving into something more, this is a really great way to start a fuller length piece. Honestly, I think that just as a 10-minute play, this section is also very, very strong. But I just want to say thank you to the actors. If you're watching and you saw all three of those pieces, why don't we give them a round of applause with emojis in the comments, everybody who shared, and we're not sharing their names intentionally, but they still deserve a round of applause for being brave, for sharing their work with us and letting us talk about it live today. I'd like to conclude this conversation and bring Mickey and Gil back up so we can have a little discussion about what we just heard. And we're going to use that handout. And I'm going to start with Mickey. Mickey, what drew you into this show besides your riveting performance of Manny?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I love the dialogue. I love the characters. I love the quippiness and the humor. It makes them very endearing. I care about them already.
You care about them so much right away, which is a huge credit to you as a writer at home. This is very clearly a very uncomfortable circumstance that these humans are a part of, but you introduce us to them with humor, so we love them right away, which is a credit to you as a writer. Thank you. So Gil, next question. What are you still curious about in this play?
Really, the thing that I'm most curious about is the heart of the matter, like especially for Ephraim and Douglas. Ephraim because it feels like he's the main character, but Douglas because he's the catalyst. Like we talk about what they want, but what happens if they don't get it? You know, for them specifically, why is this so important to them?
So you want to know a little bit more about these characters and their backstory and what kind of put them into this position, which if you at home are digging into a fuller length play, then you're going to have plenty of time to tell exactly those stories. And it feels like this might be the start of a longer piece, which would be really fabulous. And I agree, you know, even though as a 10-minute play, we can't really dig super deep into these backstories, but understanding Douglas's perspective specifically, because he's coming in, he's being talked about when he's not there, you get the sensation that we should know more about this man. And we don't have a chance to just yet. But that really kind of goes into like, where are you hoping to go with this? If you're hoping that this is just a really strong 10-minute play, then you might want to consider adding some of those elements of Douglas's backstory into the rest of the piece, maybe layering it in before he comes in, so we understand his perspective when he gets in. But if you want this to be a fuller length play, it feels like it would be very natural for the journey to be of Douglas and maybe Manny and whoever else joins this dangerous journey to kind of learn about them as they go along. So you're in good shape for either situation. I have one more question, and it's for Mickey. Mickey, my dear, what do you think is going to be the message behind this piece potentially?
Getting free, doing what they need to do to get free, maybe.
Yeah.
Or getting what they want, you know, doing what they got to do.
No matter the risk.
Yeah, that's what I hope it is. I want to see them win.
Oh, we've got a hopeful person here in our midst. And that might not be what you want to tell at home. You might want to tell a very different story through this platform, and that's okay. And you've set us up to love these characters, and wherever they go from here, we're in the palm of your hand. So congratulations on developing such a strong, start to this story. And I'm personally really looking forward to where you go with it. So this is a good time. If any of you have any questions at home watching that you'd like to pose to us, go ahead and type them out in the comments section. We'll have a minute after I wrap up to kind of check in with all of you at home. And for those of you wondering if you can still send in your work, please do. We're going to continue this sharing feedback session next Tuesday, which is technically our final session of instruction. So after that, we are going to give, or on that day, we're going to give all of the participants, either through email or live, a final deadline to submit their work for feedback. And then we're going to have a digital reading presentation for you, and you can invite your friends to hear this reading of your brand new work. And I'm going to share a little bit more on that next week. So please keep sending in your stuff. You can email me directly at kharoff@theoldglobe.org. If you are planning on, if you would like to hear your piece out loud next week, feel free to let me know for next Tuesday. And if you'd like to just deal with us through email, that's a-okay too. Yeah, okay, that's it. Now I'm going to head on over to the comments and see if there's any questions. There aren't any thus far. We got some high and lows. Somebody shared high as connection, low as isolation. Oh my gosh, I am with you on those two highs, that high and low. I think that's also, we share a high and low at home. Thank you. And then another person shared the high being dough, the low being bake. Seems like we might have had a little baking incident. And it seems like there are still no questions, which is wonderful. It means we're doing our job here. For those of you who've been submitting your pages to us, once again, you can expect a filled out feedback sheet from either myself, Mickey, or Gil by next Tuesday to help you with the continuation of developing your work. Please email in what you got. We're looking forward to reading it. We're looking forward to sharing it on our platform. And I hope that this is a wonderful weekend for all of you in your creative realms. If you are interested and would like to get your Shakespeare fix this weekend, this Saturday from 11 to 1 on our page, we're going to be hosting Happy Birthday, Mr. Shakespeare, which will be a 2-hour event featuring different Shakespearean-themed workshops and activities that is going to be fun for you and your family at home to follow along. So we hope you join us this Saturday for Happy Birthday, Mr. Shakespeare, and I will see you on Tuesday for our last Community Voices playwriting session. But don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. All right, everybody, we'll talk soon. Thanks for being here and happy writing. Have a great weekend.